Thursday to you as we welcome you into lcpioneers.com live, presented by Pios streaming live at lcpioneers.com/live, facebook.com/lcpioneers, and archived on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/lcpios. That's how you can get in touch with the show and communicate with us. Let us know anyone you want to see on a future lcpioneers.com live as we try to keep you in touch, keep you connected to the Lewis and Clark athletics community, as we'll have a guest each day, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m., with student athletes, coaches, alumni, folks from the Lewis and Clark College community, trying to keep you connected as we are all in our various parts of the country and the world. I am Ryan Goff. I'm the play-by-play voice of Lewis and Clark Athletics, Director of Athletic Communications. Lewis and Clark is located in Portland, Oregon. We are an NCAA Division III school competing in the Northwest Conference. We take on schools from Northwest Oregon throughout the state of Washington, and of course, with NCAA Division III having over 430 institutions nationwide, we have teams competing all over the country. Great opportunities to abroad with Lewis and Clark's robust overseas study program. It is really a great place for our student athletes to thrive. And it being NCAA Division III week, we focus on having guests this week that really have kind of shown us what the current path is for an NCAA Division III student athlete, but also for alumni, we're revisiting what it's been like for them to go through the experience and kind of where they are now. And in fact, our guest today, who we'll bring in a moment, is Lewis and Clark women's basketball head coach Kristina Williams, not only an alumnus of Lewis and Clark, a former Pioneer student athlete, women's basketball conference player of the year, and All-American, but now the head coach of the program. So she returned to Palatine Hill. We'll ask her why, what her path was to get back to Lewis and Clark, and why it was important to her. And now that 10 years after she was playing for Lewis and Clark, competing for the Pioneers, what she tells the student athletes who are coming into her program about why they should choose Lewis and Clark. Tomorrow we will have Alicia Calejo Black from volleyball. She will be our guest. She's pursuing a medical degree from UC San Diego currently, so we'll talk to her about the medical path and how that's definitely something that Lewis and Clark student athletes and students alike can pursue. So we'll get to Kristina in just a few moments. We do want to continue celebrating Division III week with everything that our student athlete advisory committee is up to. We've already had some great events this week. The student athletes for the Student Athlete Advisory Committee have done a nice job putting on different things. Monday, they had the Why D3 and Why Lewis and Clark videos. They had student athletes who are currently competing for the Pioneers just talk about, what it is about the Lewis and Clark experience that's so special. And then on Tuesday, they had Staff Appreciation Day, just sharing why the coaches, the athletic training staff, everyone who makes these events and their experience at Lewis and Clark worthwhile. It was great to hear their stories and the thank yous that they provided to all of those great people. And then on Wednesday, yesterday, we saw some unique talents from our Talent Day. The Lewis and Clark Student Athlete Advisory Committee Instagram was sharing some of those throughout the course of the day. You can find them LC Pios SAC. And then today, focusing on diversity and inclusion, just thinking about how Lewis and Clark athletics plays a role in diversity and inclusion at Lewis and Clark and what it means to the student athletes who are involved with the college and the programs for Lewis and Clark athletics. And then on Friday, our Building Champions program is all about creating champions in the classroom, in competition, character, and community. So focusing on that, but also showing off the champions gear, or the champions gear, as it's said, that all of our student athletes get and sport throughout the 2 semesters on Palatine Hill and beyond. I mean, it's great to see all of our students who are studying overseas also putting that stuff on and sharing it on Instagram, sharing it on Twitter and all of their social media pages as well. Last thing we'll get you caught up on is Lewis and Clark recently had announced the approval of an entrepreneurship and innovation leadership minor, and now a health studies minor has been approved by the faculty. You can head to lclark.edu and read more about that. Plus, if you go to lcpioneers.com/ylc, you can continue to stay in touch with our campus, even if you can't visit in person. We have some great virtual visit tools that are available to you. That's at lcpioneers.com/ylc. But let's get to our guest today on lcpioneers.com live. She is a former All-American for Lewis and Clark women's basketball, two-time Northwest Conference Player of the Year, helped the Pioneers to conference titles, and after graduating from Lewis and Clark as a student athlete, now has returned and is entering her third year as the Lewis and Clark women's basketball head coach. She is Kristina Williams joining us on lcpioneers.com live. Kristina, happy Thursday to you. How are you?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. I mean, honestly, it is great to talk to you because not being on campus anymore, we don't get to see anybody. And so it's been so tough to stay connected. I'm curious how that's impacted you, not only from the coaches you maybe used to see just casually down the hallway, but obviously the student athletes. How are you keeping your team with that team building mindset, even though everyone is now segmented all over the country?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been a challenge and just like it's been for, everyone across the country. But we've been handling it. I think I keep kind of saying this, but I really do think that our team specifically is in a pretty good spot. I think that we have a lot of pretty fortunate people within our program who, as they've gone home, they're in good situations and I think everyone is doing pretty good. So that makes me really happy, and I think it's made the whole process a little bit easier. We're connecting with the team every single week, getting on FaceTime calls. The team has done their own Zoom calls, to as a sort of team bonding, see each other's faces sort of thing. We've been implementing like virtual study halls. Another fun thing that I've been doing is at some of our end of our FaceTime calls, I'll play like a quick little game with some of the team. So like 2 days ago, we did the 5-second challenge with Peyton and Julia, and that was a lot of fun. I'm stealing some of these games from like the Ellen Show and different talk shows like that. But just trying to be creative and but I think for the most part, our team is really hanging in there, and I think it shows the resiliency that they've actually, showed for the past couple years. So.
Yeah, I've been watching some of your shows. You can follow the team on Instagram.com/LCPiosWBB. I was here. In fact, my first experience with Lewis and Clark as a play-by-play voice was when you were in your freshman year of competing. With it being D3 week, I want to get your perspective and an idea of what originally brought you to Lewis and Clark. Why did you choose the Pios?
Yeah, I mean, so it started through the recruitment process for basketball. Coach Julie Folks reached out to me. She saw me play at a tournament in South Lake Tahoe and then again in San Diego, and kind of started with the communication with her and some of the other members of the coaching staff. I was really drawn to Portland specifically, and then once I was able to get onto campus for my campus visit, I mean, the campus really sells itself. Even today, whenever we have recruits on campus, recruits and parents are always like, oh my God, the campus is so beautiful, and it's not really something that I have to sell. We just walk around and it completely sells itself. So that was obviously a big draw. And then just the life of a D3 student athlete, I think really stood out to me. I'm a big competitor, and I've always been a big competitor. I love the game of basketball. Obviously now it's my profession. But something about being able to be a D3 athlete where I got to be a competitor, but also experience a lot of other things through my 4 years at college, really stood out to me as a 17-year-old senior in high school. And so I think that's ultimately why I chose Lewis and Clark specifically because of its location. Portland I think really stood out to me too.
And you spoke specifically about some of those aspects about Lewis and Clark when you broadened it out to the NCAA Division III experience for student athletes, something that you lived out for all 4 years at Lewis and Clark. What are some of those best aspects that have really stuck with you now, even 7, 8 years removed from competing?
Yeah, so you're talking about kind of some of the other things I got to do while I was a D3 athlete.
Yeah, and some of those things that have really maybe affected you or impacted you to this day.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, one big thing that I see with our student athletes, every year is I was able to have internships pretty much every summer, right? So the summer after my sophomore year, I stayed in Portland and I got an internship actually through one of our assistant coaches at that time with Gatorade. So I had an internship through them, more on the business side, um, sales side, and it was an awesome experience. And I learned through that that's not the career path that I wanted to go down. And then the summer after my junior year, I got an internship through a sports psychology business, also here in Portland, that has worked with different collegiate athletic programs such as the University of Portland and some other programs locally. So that was really awesome and really drew my interest. And I was definitely thinking about going down the sports psychology route. So those were two big things that I was able to do that D3 specifically allows you to have that time during the summer to explore those opportunities.
We're talking to Kristina Williams. She's the head women's basketball coach for Lewis and Clark, former Lewis and Clark student athlete. And on the topic of D3 week, just getting an idea of what the experience was like for her as a student athlete before she became a coach. And you mentioned Julie Folks, who was the head coach for the Pioneers for a good amount of time and helped build this program into a top 5 program nationally. When you think about competing for her, what was it about her as a coach that made you want to be your best? How did she bring out that best in you?
Good question. I actually got to connect with Julie actually just last week through a video podcast that my assistant Scott Pasapia put on, and was kind of interviewing myself and Julie and our experience together at Lewis and Clark, and then kind of now what our relationship looks like as a mentor. And she really just has been a mentor for me since the moment she started recruiting me. One of her big things that I've always felt I really appreciated is that she just first wanted to build a relationship with us, and I felt like I had a relationship with her where I could go to her when things were going really well, and I could go to her when things weren't going well, and they didn't always go well. There was definitely hard moments in there, moments where I doubted myself, doubted the team, and, or on the academic side was maybe struggling academically and different stuff like that. And she was just always there as a major support system. And so I think that was a big thing, just her availability and willingness to have that relationship with her student athletes. I would also say she just really believed in us. One thing I remember when I reflect back on our 4 years is that we just had a ton of confidence as a group, as a team. And I'm sure some of that was, just some of our innate personalities, but a lot of it was the culture that she built. And looking back now from a coaching perspective, there were some years where we maybe shouldn't have had that confidence necessarily. But when I look back, we just did. And I'm sure that was so much a part of, the belief that she had in us. And she was able to find, probably small ways to show us that on a daily basis.
It's interesting that you bring up that meeting that you had with her, because we cut a snippet of that to play. You're not going to be able to hear this because, listen, I'm working from a bedroom studio trying to get this show off the ground. But let's play that for folks watching on Facebook Live and get a feel for how that conversation went, talking about one of the best teams, if not the best team of all time at Lewis and Clark.
Thinking about the 2011-2012 team, it could be argued that this team was the best women's basketball team to come through Lewis and Clark. The team finished off the season 25-4 and was ranked as high as number 7 in the country. It's important to note that all 4 losses came to George Fox, who was ranked in the top 5 in the country all season long. Do you agree that this team may have been the best team to come through Lewis and Clark?
Yeah. What I remember about that year, we were really senior heavy, and so was George Fox. And the importance of going to the East Coast to play in that tournament, Keene at that point had been, in the top couple in the country. And it was, it's just always really hard for teams to break into the top 5, the top 10 from the West Coast until you go somewhere east and get a marquee win.
So that was the clip she talked about, having to try to get the program on the national stage, and that included playing outside of the Pacific Northwest. How did that affect you when you became a coach, even as an assistant coach prior to coming back to Lewis and Clark, initially as an assistant, now the head coach? How did that make you understand what it takes to become a nationally, high caliber program?
Yeah, it's big time. I mean, even just the way that Division III works and how scheduling wise you have to be really creative with what games you're putting on your schedule, whether you're in the building phase of the program or in a phase where, hey, I think we can take the next step and reach the national level, or, I think we have a really good shot this year at, getting the at-large bid. So we have to have X number of regional games and against these high quality opponents. You know, that experience that I had as a player was really big. I have come across some other coaches who are coming down from, or not coming down, but had played maybe at the D1 level, or have more experience at the NAIA level, or just played D3 but never really got to that national level. And that sort of stuff takes a couple years to really understand. And so it was really big. It was really big on that aspect. And then obviously on the culture aspect and all of that, I take stuff from my playing days in the 4 years we had at Lewis and Clark all the time, and try and instill them in our team. But one thing I have learned is that every team is really unique. And so I have learned that in my few years of coaching, is that just because something works one year doesn't necessarily mean it will work the next.
She's Kristina Williams, head coach of Lewis and Clark women's basketball, now moving into her third season as the head coach and fifth year back at Lewis and Clark, her alma mater, on the coaching staff for the Pioneers. Looking at your program, what do you feel like you've learned that's going to help this team going forward in your first two seasons as the head coach?
Good question. I mean, I've learned so much. I've learned that, there's still so much to learn. I think that it's been a very humbling experience, to be completely honest. One thing that has really stuck with me and that we're kind of thinking through in this off season specifically is that when you implement an offense, for a group, and if it's a new offense, it takes a lot of time for, players to pick up on it, no matter the level of the players, right? And so that's one thing that I'm really excited for next year, is that we're going to be able, I believe that we implemented something last year that we're going to be able to keep, somewhat consistent, maybe with some tweaks here and there for next year. And so, we're basically returning everyone from last year's team to next year. And so they're going to have this full season under their belt, running a system, going into next year, right? Because basically for the last 2 years, we've had quite a few players who are getting significant minutes for the first time in their career at the college level. And then on top of that, they're running systems that are new to them. And this has happened over the last 2 years. And so that's definitely something that stuck with me, and something that I'm excited to see for next season, and see our progress in that area. Yeah. So we have 11 returning players from the 2019-2020 season. We'll have one senior, 8 juniors, and 2 sophomores. So that junior class is definitely a pretty big class for us. We're basically returning all of our minutes from last season. And so, just like I was talking about, I'm very excited to see the progress that is made, just having that game experience, having those doubleheader, or back-to-back nights of conference play under their belt, and really understanding what it means to go on the WITS trip and experience those battles and all of that. I'm excited to see how that group of 11 players grows by the time next season rolls around. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. In that 11, Delcy Johnson obviously stands out as a big-time player for us. She leads us in both points and rebounds. She was her freshman season, freshman conference player of the year, so she's a big-time player for us. Hannah Martin, also plays the forward position, and so we're feeling pretty good about our, post play at this point, also with Coco Schaefer, Logan Kelly, and then at the guard position, Jessica Cerny led us in scoring at the guard position last season, and I felt like last season was a really breakout season for her, and it was exciting to see. And then we obviously have the rest, and again, I'm just excited to see the progress that they make over the next year. So on top of our returners, we actually have 6 incoming freshmen for the 2020 class, who I'm very excited about. It's been a super fun process, just building relationships with these girls and their family, and getting out to club games, high school games, and being able to really see them play and build a relationship with them. Are you okay if I kind of talk about some of those players?
I would love to hear about what's ahead for the Pios for sure.
Okay, cool. So, one of our first commits was Natalie Elstone. She's from Churchill High School in Eugene, Oregon. So one of the reasons I'm excited about Natalie is that she's an Oregon native. We don't actually get a whole lot of Oregon natives in our program, and so I think she might actually be my first recruit that I have from Oregon. So very excited about Natalie. She's a combo guard. Again, played for Churchill High School, which I believe they finished second ranked in 5A for Oregon, I believe. And we're on their way, to having a pretty good, tournament in the playoffs. So yeah, I'm excited to see, what Natalie does for us. Then we have Carly Mukai. She's a point guard out of Leland High School in San Jose. Carly came to our elite clinic that we hold every September, generally the second or third weekend in September, and she really surprised us at the clinic. It was really fun to watch. She's definitely on the shorter end, and so we were very intrigued by her and to see what she could do. And dang, she handled her own for sure. She was locking people up on defense, and her and Delphi were playing some pick and roll game, and really we're doing some good things. So excited about Carly. Then we have Charlotte Carroll. She's from Fortuna High School in Northern California. I think she might be our most Northern California recruit ever, maybe in the program. And she's a lefty forward. And so she's actually our one forward in the group. And came out as actually a bit of a surprise to me in the recruitment process, but very excited about her and excited that she's going to get to play with, Delcy and Hannah and those other post players that I mentioned, and kind of learn from them. It will be a cool experience. Eva Richards, she's from Newport High School in Bellevue, Washington. Another combo guard. She has handles. She has lots of clips on YouTube if you want to look them up, where she is crossing people over step back three, a little bit like Steph Curry-ish in a way. She has some buzzer beater 3-pointers, so definitely has that competitor gamer vibe to her. So very excited about her. Number 5, we have Ashley Young. She's from West Seattle High School. She's a 5'10" athletic guard. So excited to see what Ashley's going to be able to do. She has the length and size that really pans out well at the guard position in our conference. And then our last recruit still hasn't deposited. So for NCAA rules, I can't say her name, but she is from Hawaii and a guard, and was our last recruit to commit. So very excited about her as well.
I mean, this is what's fun if you're trying to find positives in the fact that we've had no spring sports and everyone's off campus. Is we're hearing about the recruits a little bit earlier than normal. We usually wait till May or June to talk about them, but the fact that you are so excited about them and how they can combine with that outstanding nucleus that you have coming back next year, and also a little bit of an upswing toward the end of the season. I'm pretty excited about Pioneers basketball next year. Kristina Williams, head coach of Lewis and Clark women's basketball, former All-American for the Pios. We really appreciate you talking to us, especially during D3 week. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, Ryan, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Kristina Williams on lcpioneers.com live. A lot of fun to talk to her and get her perspective on everything that's going on with her team and Lewis and Clark Athletics, especially just trying to keep her team together and connected during this moment or time of remote learning and everyone kind of wrapping up. I mean, we're down to 2.5 weeks left in the spring semester, if you can believe it. Excited for our guest tomorrow. Alicia Calejo Black, a former Lewis and Clark volleyball player, will join us. She is pursuing a medical degree at UC San Diego. She's a longtime volunteer for OHSU, Oregon Health and Science University, which is located just miles from the Lewis and Clark College campus. So a lot of the students and student athletes who come to Lewis and Clark who are interested in a health profession have been able to get internship and opportunities for research at OHSU and get involved. And she's someone who now, a class of 2014 graduate, has stayed with that volunteerism at OHSU even while pursuing her degree in medicine at UC San Diego. So we'll talk to her tomorrow at 11:30. Our show Tuesday through Friday at 11:30, and then next week, excited to welcome in Kess Moulton of women's rowing, Aaron Campbell, the head coach of Lewis and Clark track and field, former Lewis and Clark men's basketball player Jason Luno, who's now an assistant coach for nearby Lake Oswego High School in the Portland area, and then Angela Gins from the IME department on campus. We're going to talk to her about some of the things that Lewis and Clark offers that maybe we don't get to enough in the athletic realm, but definitely has an impact on our student athletes. And with her leading that outstanding division, excited to hear how they have an impact on all of Lewis and Clark's 2,000 plus students. So I'll have her on a week from tomorrow. Until then, we invite you to get in touch with the show. You can do so, LC Pioneers, on Twitter and Instagram. Also in the comments below our video while it's going on live on Facebook. You can comment on our YouTube archive too. We are posting each interview up the day that it runs on lcpioneers.com with links to past shows on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LCPios. LCPios for that. You can also find us on Facebook and see all of our archives by just typing simply in lcpioneers.com/live. So super easy to get involved, and we hope you will do so, as it was a lot of fun to talk to Kristina about everything that her program is going through. And the future looks super bright. It was neat to hear about recruits because, again, that's not something we usually get to do this early. So more with lcpioneers.com live tomorrow as we have the show Tuesday through Friday at 11:30. Until then, I'm Ryan Goff. Thanks for having fun with us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow for more on the show. Goodbye, everybody.
I think everyone should take intro to chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed education in a complex world. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundai though. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was international affairs, just intro to international affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.
Lewis and Clark is amazing.
Beautiful campus, small classes.
When you really come here, you get this sense and the feeling that this is a place that you could spend 4 years.
I was so comfortable learning and growing here.
There's no ostentation, there's no pretension, no status. Everyone's just here to learn.
To this bustling metropolitan area.
The overseas program is giving you the opportunity to explore the world, go to places that you never thought of. Just come here, just visit the school, and you're gonna fall in love with it.
It's time to explore Lewis and Clark.